Welcome to episode 1 of Next Gen Gains. If you are 15 to 25 and you are just starting your health and wellness journey, you're looking to get big, you're in the gym, you're looking for ways to improve, and you're thinking about taking performance enhancing drugs, PEDs, any compounds like that, this podcast is for you. I'm here with Jeffrey Delaney, owner of T Clinics USA and Nuviva Medical Weight Loss. I just recently started working with him and he has changed the game for me, and we want to give that to you for free. Jeff, thank you for doing this with me. I think we've seen a problem across the board with the younger generation skipping to PEDs before doing the necessary steps. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and why this is so important to you?
Well, first off, this is definitely a passion project, and I could tell you're just as passionate as I am about just making sure people don't make the same mistake I made or you made just through the process of coming up in the gym or trying to be bigger, jacked and juicier. You know, you get it's so, I would say fitness is so huge right now, especially in the younger generation. So I think this podcast is going to be very beneficial and hopefully help people think and navigate their way through not making mistakes. You know, I've been in health and wellness for over 30 years. I started working out, when I was 12 years old. You know, my dad would take me to the gym and kind of let me work out if I behaved. I'd read all the muscle magazines and you'd see the guys coming in, and I just envied, how do those guys get so big and so muscular? And, so at an early age, I was in the gym working out. I played sports, played football, wrestled. And so I was always kind of had a passion to try to kind of be better than the rest. I wasn't genetically gifted. So, coming up around some of the guys in the gym, I kind of started using supplements first off early on, earlier than probably most kids would. I was doing creatine probably at 11, 12. I was, taking some of the pro hormones without my dad knowing when I was 14, 15, back in that era. It was, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa and, you see these guys taking androstenedione. And I think where the downfall was for me is the guys that I looked up to that I got to know in the gym were at the time, maybe 17, 18, 19 to 22. And so they kind of took me under their wing, this young 14, 15-year-old kid. And, they didn't know any different. So, and even some of the older ones were actually using other compounds. So I got kind of into that and curious about that at an early age. And so as I kind of progressed, probably at 17 years old, after progressing with and let me take a step back. I started taking androstenedione and some of those and saw exponential gains. I did watch my food. I still was on top of the training side of things, which I think a lot of people now look past. They just go straight for the actual, the compound or the thing to be bigger, faster, stronger. That's the world we live. Everybody wants the quick fix, the fast, the easy. I was doing a lot of the necessary stuff. But I kind of progressed into seeing the results from things that I probably shouldn't have been taking. And, it was kind of addicting at the time. And, some people oh, you're stupid for taking that. The other day, I think we posted something and somebody was like, well, that's your fault for taking steroids. It's a slippery slope. I started with creatine and then I progressed to a pro hormone and then I progressed towards anabolics. And then it was doing them right to all of a sudden just doing them all the time. And so, my goal is to hopefully catch kids before they do make that mistake. So, I kind of went through high school using a lot of, at that time, PEDs. You didn't have the cool stuff you have today. You didn't have some of the cooler SARMs or some of the actual growth hormone peptides. If I would have had some of the resources now, and this is part of what's coming in the podcast, is talking about things that you could actually do that aren't going to mess up your hormones or mess up your health and kind of get you some progression, but also check the boxes or pick up the 3 dimes. I know we're going to talk about, just don't step over 3 dimes to pick up a quarter, but when you're ready to pick up the quarter, how you could get exponential results. But at 17, I started using steroids. I was, I was actually a young senior. I was pretty decent at football. I was getting ready to play at the next level. I was going to play at college. It was smaller D3 school, but I wasn't big enough. And I felt I wasn't fast enough. And, at that time, I've already been on androstenedione and, You know, back then they didn't have Haladrol. They had some other ones. But I wasn't progressing fast enough per my liking. And so one of the guys in the gym actually got me some Winstrol because I was trying to get faster. I was 17, crazy change in speed. I came off of it, and that's kind of where the downfall happened. I saw myself revert so bad, like so quick, and then ended up going on testosterone. I think I put on 22 pounds in like 10 weeks. It was retarded. I was fast, strong. And definitely I was able to kind of play at the next level short term, but then I got injured because I progressed so quick and so fast that it set me up for an injury. And then from that injury, I never really kept on with it. And then, you know, there was a couple years where I still almost stayed on performance enhancing drugs because I didn't feel good when I came off. I didn't have the confidence when I came off. I kind of almost felt like I couldn't get by without them. And that's where like one of the bigger problems started for me. You know, at 22, I tried to come off and my hormones were 17. You know, it's like most guys don't decline on testosterone until they're in their 40s, 50s. I am seeing the younger generation, besides messing themselves up like myself, have lower testosterone levels because, you know, a lot of us are more sedentary and less active, and the quality of the food that they're eating is complete garbage, or they're bulking and picking the wrong foods. So you have a faster decline happening in testosterone in men now. But the minute you take something like that, our bodies typically say, hey, I got it coming in. Why do I need to make it? And so at that age, my testes weren't working. And so that's kind of how I got into the business I'm in now of fixing my levels, where I fixed my levels first. Back then it was taboo. They didn't really have clinics that, you know, can help somebody reboot or recover their levels. Hormone therapy was not really talked about back then. So I actually went through a good physician friend partner of mine, and we were able to reboot my levels, and kind of, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the goal is to kind of avoid somebody younger going through that.
I think it's important to note too, it's like, we're not coming to you, like talking down to you or coming from some higher level. We've made all the mistakes. You know, we've made all the wrong decisions. We've dealt with the consequences. And the main goal here is to make sure you don't have to do that. Similar story to you. It's the same thing. I started creatine first, probably 15, and then high school sports, right? SARMs came into play. We probably had a team of 40 people, 20 of them were on SARMs. So it's like, you know, I feel like this is common for a lot of kids, especially like 16 to 20, is maybe your growth is a little slower than your buddies, or maybe your buddies started taking SARMs and now you're behind, and it's like, oh, now I want to take SARMs because I want to be as big and strong and fast as Joe, Jeff, and Jim, and you mess up your body. Same thing happened to me. I've taken probably 6 or 7 cycles of SARMs, stacking things, LGD, RAD, Austrian, you know, ibutamorin, the whole slew. And what I compare it to now is like, if you're a car guy, imagine driving a car at 6,000 RPMs. Feels great at first, right? Yeah. And then that car just starts falling apart on you. You know, I've had the surgeries. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. My LCL, my knee joints all got messed up. And I just really want to get this out and to the right demographic, make sure kids are seeing this, to let them know that. And this is an analogy that you kind of explained to me that was perfect. It's like, don't step over 3 dimes to pick up the quarter, or 3 quarters to pick up the dime, rather, right? Yeah. Where it's like you go straight to the PED, to the SARM, because you want fast acting results, but you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, like you're not probably training right. Especially now, like you mentioned, I feel like kids are picking up the SARM and thinking that's your solution, not even training with it. You're just taking it, and God, what that does to your joints. I know you can attest, I can attest, it is brutal. And the fight to get back to optimal health after you do these things is so hard. And it's so much worse and so much harder than it is to just do the right things at first and just optimize. I wish more people, like, because you told this to me, people told this to me my whole life, is like, if you eat right, that's a drug. That's a PED. If you're getting the right nutrition and the right sleep, and you're always just like, nah, like I eat fine. But most people, especially kids, your main source of protein is Chick-fil-A after school. That's not going to do it. So it's like, I think more people need to realize that even if you think you're eating enough, you're not.
Yep.
And if you are going to go down a path like this, for whatever reason it is, you need to do it with someone like a T clinics, go get professional help. So I think that's super important. But could you kind of explain what your analogy with the dimes and the quarters are?
Yes. So, I look at like when it comes to nutrition, unfortunately, that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do in the world we live in today. But the 3 dimes is nutrition, training properly, and then sleep. Out of all those 3 dimes, the nutrition is ginormous. It is a drug. It is medicine. Like even to this day, I do a lot of preventive healthcare, and it's food can change your health markers drastically, faster than any drug or medication you ever take. But so many people don't want to focus on that. They, like you said, they'll go straight to the SARM or the SERM or the anabolic to see the results initially. And that's fine. There's a place and a time depending on the situation, and there's certain things you could do. But if you would focus on your food, focus on getting quality sleep so you could recover and repair faster from the trauma you cause when you do train, and then making sure that you're physically putting in the training, which is a piece of it. I don't put as much weight to the training as I do with like nutrition and sleep, and it goes in that order: nutrition, sleep, and training. It's exponential when you do the other stuff. But I think the whole goal is the younger generation, they're not fully grown. They haven't seen their true genetic potential. And so when you're trying to alter your genetic potential early without making those other changes, you'll see results, but you're also going to create a lot of other problems. It's like focus on the 3 dimes first, see how far you could get with that and really truly apply it before you pick up the other, the quarter. So you could add 30 cents here and then obviously pick up the quarter. And I would say, okay, you got 55 cents. Really? No, you would have like a lot more money because it just magnifies that. But also be smart in the things that you're doing so you're not putting yourself in a position to where you might shut yourself down and then you might not even get back into it. And then you stop working out and you start getting fat and you next thing you know, it's like you're not even in the gym and you're a completely different person than who you were. So, my goal is to hopefully get the younger generation, and I say pre-18, to really focus on the 3 dimes first. Let's see, like hammer that so hard and precise and get as far as you can with that. And then once you kind of get stagnant, there are other things you could do. There's are other things you could add in that we'll talk about that could help you out and not mess up other things. And then there's going to come a day for all of us hormonally, we're going to be shut down. And if you choose to go the anabolic route, like that's on you. Just be smart about it. Make sure you have lab markers on it and just make sure you're not doing something now that creates a bigger problem later. The goal in life is obviously we want to be healthy and look good and feel good and function good, but we want to add years, but we want quality years on the back end. I think just people always look at now and they don't care about the repercussions that come from it later. So, and then just to kind of add to what you were talking about, back when you're
25.
You're 25. I'm about to be 44. Back then, we didn't have, one, the resources that are available. Number 2, they were nowhere near as easily available. Like I had to like get them from like a guy in the gym out of the trunk of his car, like now you could go online and buy a lot of things to performance enhance.
Yep.
I can't tell you, I get emails every single day. Do you want to buy raw steroid compounds? And like every single day, like it's at the kids' fingertips all the time. And it's I'm kind of scared for them because it's so easy to just be able to get it. You could get it. You could go to a supplement store and get things that probably will mess you up. You could go to the local gym and they got things sitting out front that could potentially help, but also mess you up.
Yep.
And so like, I didn't have those resources. And like I said, some of it we'll talk about that, you could sprinkle in, but I really want to get people to really think it through before they make that jump. And just, once again, let's pick up some dimes first.
Yep.
And then, we'll see exponential results with the other things you add on.
And another important thing too is like, just because it's sold at Total Nutrition or your gym does not mean it's good for you, right? Like, especially this, like we were talking about earlier, the SARMs that they sell to Total Nutrition, it literally says on the bottle, not safe for human consumption.
Yep.
And it's because it wasn't tested. Wasn't tested to see how much of that compound is actually in there. Wasn't tested for bacteria. Wasn't tested for whatever else they put in there. Whatever else they were making in that same lab that they made that in for you, it could have been something completely different. So it really is not safe.
Well, that's a loophole too, just so you know, like that's their loophole to be able to have it online, readily available. And I could tell you firsthand, just being in the space and on the medical side, a lot of the quality that you get, it's just like supplements. If they're not third-party tested, they could put whatever in there. I mean, back in the day, there were supplements that used to actually, back in the 80s, 90s, that had steroids in them because they weren't tested. Like they didn't list certain things. They obviously have to get you results initially, and then sometimes they'll pull certain things away. There are companies that actually got in trouble for having things they shouldn't have in the supplements, but the regulation on a lot of that stuff is not that good, and they're just trying to sell a product. And so, you know, one, you might end up having to take 10 times more to get the same results, or two, God forbid, like how it was produced, the sterility is not there, and you end up having a issue if it's an injectable type product just because it's not being done and not being regulated and not looking to see that there, you know, the quality control and the, you know, the, if there's any bacteria in the actual sample. There are a lot of things that are out that you could get online that you can't get at the pharmacy. But we'll talk about some of the things, just, you know, buyer beware when it comes to certain products like that. But yeah, it's just, like I said, the accessibility of that stuff is easy. Yeah. So, and that's the thing that scares me, even with my son. My son's starting to get into the gym. He's 14 and a half years old. And he comes to me now asking me like, hey, my buddy is going to do this. And I'm like, what? Like, what? He's like, well, what do you think about if I do? I'm like, yeah, no. And so I'm trying to educate him as well. But it, you know, that was I think the final thing that made me get with you, because we talked about your situation, obviously my situation. And, you know, just, it's making me like, if he's asking, how many other kids are asking or looking or potentially using?
Yep. It's bigger now than ever. And I think it's because it's more recently, over the last few years now, it is sold over the counter at these stores, and like it makes kids think it is safe. It's like, that was when I first
it's a supplement.
That's when I first bought it. I saw it at Total Nutrition. I was like, oh, Total Nutrition sounded, how bad for it? Yeah. How bad can it be for me? It's like, no, it's very bad for you. And I implore you, if you are in that 16 to 25 age range and you are thinking about doing this, remember that you have the rest of your life to live. And even though you will feel good for a little bit, it's not going to last very long. You're going to mess yourself up. You're going to mess your body up. And I've done it. And now I've worked with Jeff too, and I'm doing it the right way. And I feel a million times better now than I ever did on SARMs, just by eating right, sleeping right. Getting those dimes in check has changed the game. And it's honestly more powerful than any SARM you could take, and it'll last. Well, you're doing it healthy.
And picking the right things that are going to support and assist with no negative ramification.
Yep.
You know, just to kind of go back to what you were saying is, and one of the biggest, I think, fears that a lot of the younger generation don't think about is, if you were to take certain SARMs or things that kind of help your testosterone level, and this one is kind of what I lead in with a lot of younger, and we'll talk about this more as we go on certain products, is the minute you start taking something that replaces your body making testosterone, the testes say, okay, we don't need to work. I have it coming in, and they kick down. What does that mean? Okay, fine. You're making gains from the difference that you're supplementing. But when you do come off, you're tired, you're fatigued. If you're at the age where you're having sex, your unit doesn't work. If you're thinking about at some point you want kids, and I know when you're younger, you don't think like, nah, I don't want kids or whatever. Like I always wanted a kid. So like, you know, seeing that like guys, and especially firsthand coming into the clinic that are messed up, their fertility shut down. And it's not, there's no textbook, like if you take this is going to happen. I've seen guys take everything under the sun and the testes still work and their fertility is still there and they still have kids. But I've seen the kids that take an SARM or something like LGD, shut the testes down, and the testes didn't want to wake back up. And now they're like, well, you know, shoot, like I don't feel good, and it's creating 10 times more problems, but now I might not be able to have a kid. So it's, you know, just be really, really smart and be a sniper with your health. You know, just do the things that you know aren't going to kind of put you in a worse position after doing it.
Yep. And after all this, the good news is that there is a safe, healthy way to do this to enhance your performance. And we're going to go through it all. We're going to talk about things like peptides, PEDs, the good and the bad, how to train, how to eat, why sleep is so important. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to see us cover, please comment them DM us, comment them. We will get to it all. The biggest thing is we want to be able to answer all questions for this younger generation to make sure they're optimizing their health, but optimizing their health the right way. So please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you want us to cover. We are super excited about this. Jeff alone has a textbook in his head full of knowledge about this, and he's willing to share it with you. So let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll see you next week.
Get gains.